So Judge Mershon has withheld judgment, meaning he will rule on that at a later time, and has not given any indication of when he will rule on the gag order violations. I have been uncomfortable with the judiciary's relaxed approach to Donald Trump because Donald Trump presents a clear and present danger to our democracy. And it's important that when gag orders are issued and then violated, that they be promptly enforced so that it plays the proper role of deterrence that it is meant to play. So here, Judge Mershon has withheld judgment, I assume because he will issue a written order in short order. And I'm hoping that that short order will be short, meaning within this week. So welcome to Law and Society. And I'm talking a little bit about my frustration with the federal judiciary and some of the state court antics that, while is commonplace and takes place on a regular basis with courts, Donald Trump's case and Donald Trump's threats are unique, and they have to be dealt with the urgency that they deserve. So I hope that when Judge Mershon rules on these gag order violations, that he imposes the maximum sentence of fining for each violation that are now filed, that being 10 of them, $1,000 each, and then again rewrite the gag order to make it more specific, and also to remind Donald Trump that should he violate this gag order again, then some form of restriction will be put on his movement and his communication abilities. Now, whether that be incarceration or whether that be house arrest without access to the internet, whatever it may be, the judge should consider those options because it's less intrusive than incarceration, and yet gets the work done in stopping Donald from spewing this garbage and intimidating witnesses and putting witnesses, jurors, jurists, and officers of the court and family members and friends of these people in danger. So I hope that that ruling comes out in the next week. Now I want to talk briefly about the federal judiciary. I'm focused on the case of the criminal prosecution in D.C., where Donald Trump has been charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy to deprive us of our rights under color of law, meaning Donald Trump tried to take away our votes under the color of law, under the false pretense that he had the authority to do so. Now, that case has been stayed completely as of February 6th because of Donald Trump's appeal for presidential immunity. And what the Supreme Court did was set a near 50-day time period schedule for accepting the certiorari and asking the question, the narrowly tailored question of whether and if so, to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity for acts alleged to be official acts during his tenure in office. That question is a very narrow question, and it springs from an interlocutory appeal that currently has a criminal trial underlying that has been stopped because of this appeal. So the Supreme Court should take that into consideration when it rules. It has already given a relaxed 50 days. The court has 10 days to read the briefs, the final briefs that were entered. And then on the 25th, when there are oral arguments, soon after that, and I don't mean expedient by measure of the federal judiciary, which is 3 weeks, but closer to, again, a week of hearing the oral arguments, I hope that the Supreme Court rules. And I hope that the Supreme Court rules to remand the case back to the trial court to determine whether the acts that were committed were private acts or official acts. And if private and criminal acts, Donald Trump doesn't have any immunity. It's important that these cases move forward because the Manhattan case, where the gag order needs to be enforced so the integrity of the trial and the safety of all involved isn't jeopardized repeatedly, it is important for the gag order to be imposed sooner rather than later so as to not hinder the case of election interference in the 2016 election. And this time around, the DC case, it's an election interference case for the 2020 election. So these cases are happening almost back to back. And what I am noticing now is that the judiciary is dealing with these cases as they would in common practice. We'll wait for the ruling. We'll rule on this later. We'll give them 50 days for the appellate filing schedule. Then we're going to take our sweet time to rule on the matter. And that just does not appreciate the urgency of the threat that Donald Trump presents. And the people have a right to know the truth about the threat that Donald Trump poses, not just to citizens, but also to our democracy. And it has much less to do with the elections than it has to do with the fact that judicial economy, because the taxpayer pays for the prosecution and the judiciary, to have the case take place in a timely manner so as to not waste taxpayer money. There's the other interest of having the witnesses testify before they lose recollection of critical facts, or the possibility, which in this case has been, come to pass with Donald Trump's attacks, that Donald Trump that a criminal defendant, wouldn't go out and commit more crimes or violate conditions of bond. These are all the reasons why the Supreme Court itself held that the society has an interest in a speedy trial to avoid all of those things that I just mentioned. And that has nothing to do with the 2024 election. But it sure as hell is going to help Americans pick the right candidate if they have the full truth. That's a political reason. And the previous 3 reasons I gave you were the legal reasons per the Supreme Court. So with that said, I'm ending today's talk, and I would like to apologize because the last 2 videos that I did about the judiciary and the lackadaisical way in how they have worked, there's been a time lag between my mouth and the recording. So I hope this recording gets to you and is proper. And if you've gotten to this point, please like and subscribe. I am, I come online when the need arises to talk to you about matters that I find to be important, that I feel that somehow have fallen through the cracks of the general larger scale media. With that said, thank you. Take care.